efficient.
Mics are on.
I'd like to call the workshop session to order, please. This is June 27th, 2011 at 4:30. And as I look around the table, you all are here. You look bright and happy. On the agenda items to discuss, we're going to review current and future mayor and council committee appointments. So, Parrish, is that yours?
Yes.
All right.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight we're going to just review the several formal and informal boards, committees, neighborhood liaison positions that Mayor and Council serve on. All of these councils, committees reflect the city's interests and or councils. Some are assigned to the mayor only. Others are assigned to the mayor, but the mayor then has the privilege to reassign it to a council member. The two things to accomplish tonight are, first, to reassign former council member Sousa's commissions. There are 5, and they were in your packet. And the other item we need to confirm are those existing committees that council currently sits on, if they want to continue serving on those committees or offer them up to be reassigned to some of our new council members.
Okay, so just tell us where we're going to the page that says Sousa. Is that what we're going to do?
Yes.
Okay.
Go to the page that says Sousa, and then
Okay.
also there is a handout in your packet where it says council committees and assignments to confirm. I just handed it out, actually. I updated it with one item mobile.
Oh, okay. That's
So-
like the one I have here.
Yes,
right?
that
Okay.
is exactly it. So this makes it easy, just a quick sheet to look at what is actually open. The first item, we have 2 community funding seats, and this is the community funding program that we have, that they review the grant applications. Currently, Councilmember Pizzillo is the only.
Right. Do we want to wait until we get to their page, or are we doing this ahead of time? Tell
Oh,
me
no,
now.
I thought we could look at the current ones that need to be filled
Okay.
and fill those.
Okay.
And these are reflective of Councilman
Okay.
Sousa's
All right.
page.
Thank you. Okay. Here we go. You've got
So the
floor.
first one is Community Funding Committee, and that is the community funding where we review applications for grants every year. The past year, it was Councilmember Pizzillo, it was former Councilmember Sousa, and former Councilmember Cavalier. So we have 2 openings. Currently, Councilmember Campbell has expressed interest.
And so who's on it still?
Only Councilmember
Joe.
Pizzillo is
So Joe,
officially
you're
on it.
Okay. All right. You just have to walk me through this slowly.
Okay.
It's been a busy day.
I know.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so Wally, you said you wanted to be on this. Is that
I am
correct?
interested if someone
All right.
else
Is there
doesn't
anybody
want
else around the table that wanted to be considered for this?
I am.
Okay. Does anybody want to refute any of that or talk about it? Are you all right with that? You got it. Okay, so you're taking that down?
Yes.
So
Okay.
that's Bill.
Yep. Councilmember Bill Stipp, Wally Campbell for the Community Funding Committee to replace
Okay.
Councilman Sousa and Cavalier.
Oh, good. And I want to make an announcement here. You know, we're at these work sessions. I'm going to call you by your first name if it comes to mind. I'm not going to have to worry that I didn't say councilman or councilwoman. Do you mind that?
No,
That's
not at
just more of a conversation.
I suppose.
I don't know, but, you know, I could get a little sign and put up for you.
That's
Maybe that's what I need on a paddle. Okay, go ahead.
All right. The second item is the Goodyear Public Safety Retirement Board, and this is one that Councilmember Sousa used to chair.
Right.
And so this is available, and I know that Councilmember Bill Stipp has expressed interest.
Well, I'm going to give my opinion on this, if you don't mind, and you certainly can, everybody, is that that it's a great transition. You have done it before. It's something you know, and it's something that we can certainly get really good action on because you are so familiar with the subject matter at this time. There is one thing I want to bring up at this moment. John, tell me what happens if we do like an assistant or a replace or someone that can substitute on these committees. So say you can't go. And so I know staff goes, but could we send another council person with staff? Does that create a problem?
I think it's going to depend on the bylaws of the individual.
Like we did that on CDAC, right? Isn't that, we do that on that?
It may depend on the bylaws of the committee, because a lot of times we don't control the membership
Okay.
of the committee itself. So it's going to depend on what those individual bylaws say as far as substituting a member. So I think you have to check into that.
All right, what I would like to do then, those that are on committees, if you would check your bylaws when you go, because I have to tell you, Joanne went to GPEC for me, And we didn't lose anything on that GPEC meeting and information because Joanne was there, you know, and it really was helpful. So it's also the reason I wanted it. I wanted a learning process. So when you next year come up, say you want to do what Bill's doing next year, something that they have some experience by. Anybody else want to weigh into this conversation? Yeah.
There is a vice chair on that committee, and when the chair is absent, the vice chair does chair the meeting, and it's one of the citizens that has been
Oh.
appointed by the committee, by the board,
All right.
to serve as vice chair.
All right. And do we have that name of that person? Will we be given that name? So
Yes.
it would be.
It's in the handbook. Right now, we're missing your designee for the
Okay.
committee to be the chair.
Okay.
And then because Councilmember Stipp was elected, or has been elected, his citizen vacancy is still vacant.
Thank you. But see, if we hadn't brought it up, we would have never known that, right? So at least we are more informed.
We knew that.
Okay? All right. So I guess that's Bill Stipp.
Okay. The next item is the Planning and Zoning Commissioner Selection Subcommittee. Now, this committee meets only when needed, so it's not a standing committee that has to meet every quarter. You might go a whole year without meeting, but it is available.
Who's on there now? I'm sorry.
I think Gary wanted to do that.
Yes, Councilmember Loretano is on there.
So Laura Tano's on it, and so that adds Gary to it. They're both very experienced again in planning and zoning.
Okay.
And
And next year, I
next year.
would like to do it
So-
because I've not been on planning and
Sure,
zoning,
sure.
and I think they need an outside
Well,
voice.
that's why I would like, if possible, if you can check, that you could go along, and, I mean, I guess you can always go into meetings, everything's open.
Sure.
But it would mean you'd have to make that concerted effort to do that, and get yourself educated on it. Not that we all can't learn quickly, but it just would be more experience for you. So if you'll do that, and you two will work with her to make sure, you know, she gets informed when things are on, and so,
Isn't Joanne still on it?
I don't know. That's why I asked.
oh,
Yes.
sorry, Joanne.
I believe there's three, plus the chairman of the planning commission, plus a former planning.
Yes, it's currently it's council members Osborne and Loretano.
I apologize for,
That's okay. That's okay.
okay.
Well, hey, we got to battle digital billboards here, so
Oh, well,
gotta be there.
don't you worry, that we're all up to that. So, Wally, if you would just put that on your agenda
I
to
will
try to,
for
you know?
next year. Yeah. I will.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Next?
Okay, the next item is neighborhood liaison for historic Goodyear. I know that Councilmember Pizzolo has expressed some interest.
Well, I have it sort of now, you know, but I know if somebody else wants it because of some of the other loads, I've got, you know, the community funding, I've got the audit committee, and what's the other neighborhood?
Canada Village.
Canada Village, I have that one. I tend to go to that one as
Yes.
well, so if, and again, you had mentioned you weren't sure, I don't think Bill has a neighborhood, right?
That's right.
I
Councilmember
don't know
Stipp
if
doesn't
you
have a
want one,
neighborhood.
Bill, because I don't mind passing it over to you to get you a neighborhood, because I already have one with Canada Village, so
Sure.
All right, great.
Okay.
Thank you, Bill.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's a great area.
All right.
that'll get you a neighborhood.
The next item is really just to confirm, but the neighborhood liaison for Mobile, Councilmember Campbell has.
That's an excellent one, because she
Okay.
knows everybody there on a personal basis. If anybody can get anything done, it's going to be her on that, Wally.
Oh, Bill.
Thank you. Thank you
Okay.
very much. Those people that have neighborhoods, it would be nice once in a while if you make sure that staff puts it out, that there is a meeting. I know we should know all that. If some other council person would like to attend, you know, I like that, and so.
We always do every time there is a
Okay,
meeting.
all right, so,
Yeah, because I try to attend as many as I
yeah,
can
and so
anyway.
you can
so.
attend any of these neighborhood meetings. It's kind of nice. They like seeing you there.
And for mobile, since they are kind of separated, if we could give like notice, because my schedule's always hard, but if you give notice ahead of time, I would like to go down there as much as possible.
sure.
Not as the liaison,
Yeah.
but just to show more support because they are kind of out,
And I think we'll have another council meeting down there. Is that
especially around Christmas or something. You guys do something.
This fall, sure.
this fall? Yeah, okay. All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Now, the final item is the Westmark Board of Directors.
Right.
So it is a mayor's seat,
Yes.
and Councilmember Sousa served at your pleasure on this board.
Right.
So
And
it's
Joanne Osborne, I've asked if she would serve at my pleasure on that.
okay.
That's fine.
Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so the next item is really just to go over the current list, just to see if there was any changes, if somebody wanted to drop out. As you can see, it tells you what the committee is, the description, how often they meet, and then just a reference to when the council member was appointed and when the term expires. The first one, if you want to look at Councilmember Pizzillo, leads off with the Canada Village.
Wait. Oh, we have, where'd you get, where's Pizzillo? Because I've got odd, do you have Pizzillo?
It's right after me.
Oh, okay. All right, we got it.
Okay. He has right now the Canada Village, Community Funding, RPTA Board of Directors, RPTA Finance and Budget Subcommittee, Goodyear and Action Board of Directors, the city's Audit Committee, and then the Arizona Municipal Water Users Association, also known as AMWA. So,
Yes, Gary?
I would like to backstop Joe or be an alternate for the RPTA, if that's possible.
Okay. Can we check that out? How does that?
Okay.
Do we have anybody here on staff that goes
yes,
to RPTA?
I think we can look it up
I
with
do.
Marina.
Oh, staff?
We'll check on it.
Will you
Yeah,
check
Cato,
on that?
Cato goes on staff to that, so.
I'll just go with you when I come back in September. I'll just start going to
Okay, so we're going to
meetings.
put Gary as
An alternate.
an alternate, and if he can't be an alternate, he'll go and be an observer because everything's open meeting,
fine.
right?
Yeah, that's,
We'll
that's
get
fine.
there. Somehow we're going to make this work, all right?
Okay.
Is that the only one on that one? Yes,
I had kind of a general question. The city's audit committee,
yes.
I can only find two names of folks that are on. Is it only a two-person committee?
No, there's three of us on it right here.
Right here.
There's three council and the city
Yeah.
manager.
Must have missed it up.
Yeah, that's
The
okay.
volumes that you have. Okay.
I'm good with numbers. I can do this.
I know you are.
Okay, what is the next one on your list? I don't want to go out of step with what you have in the packet. Who did you have next?
Well, Joanne was the,
Joanne?
after
Okay.
me was Joanne, right? Yeah, Vice Mayor Osborne was the one.
Okay, so we can look at Councilmember Osborne. She's currently on the MAG Continuum of Care Committee as chair. She's also the MAG Human Services Coordinating Committee vice chair-elect. She'll take those positions over in July. She's currently the alternate for CDAC, which is the Council for Community Development Advisory Council. See, in that bylaws, they do require an alternate. She's-
You know, and just to, on that one, you know, I've been the alternate for quite a few years now with Frank, and, you know, it's nice when I see the outcomes of this because it kind of plays in hand with some of the commitment I have to MAG and Health and Human Services and, you know, funding for, you know, different housing projects, things like that. However, it seems to be I'm in that nutshell of all those human services, which is great, but I'd like to see one of you all get that opportunity also, because I'm already seeing it. And so I'm thinking if somebody would rather be the alternate, I would step back, because I'm going to hear about it anyway. So
Oh, you're the,
I'm the primary.
She's going to be the primary for Frank.
And I won't be here for the July meeting, and the
Right.
July meeting is one that
August.
they're going to,
Excuse
I
me?
mean,
August.
is it
August,
August?
yes, August.
And they're going to be
I know.
discussing stuff that, extra money that they can spend. So I don't have really any history of that, do you?
No, because it's new. It's
Okay.
going to be, but
and so that's what month?
August.
August, yes. They canceled the July meeting.
Gary's gone.
I'm gone.
You're gone.
okay, I guess. It's my 25th wedding anniversary. But
No, you shouldn't have to.
I
You
wasn't
shouldn't have
going
to
to be
be
there,
there.
but that's okay. I'll take
Well,
care of it.
late in August.
It's August.
15. It's around the middle. It's always
thought it
the.
was the 8th.
Let's see
What
here.
time are the
It's
meetings?
the. Let's see.
It
let me
doesn't
just-
matter. I'll take care
Joanne,
of it.
what time are the meetings?
It's
We'll figure something out.
5:30. I'm just saying if you guys
We'll
would
figure something
send
It's usually
me
the
up
second
right-
Wednesday of the month.
If I mean, I'll even go if I'm here. I don't know if
I'll
I
have
don't have
to-
anything else that night.
If it's the 8th, I can make it, and here's where I'm going to kind of drive this. The CDBG projects typically take place in historic Goodyear.
Yes.
Very true.
So as the historic Goodyear
Right.
rep, I can serve as the alternate. And once we
That's
can,
excellent.
once we confirm the date, then we can figure out who's going to go to that meeting in August, and then we'll.
Right. So would you like to? Okay.
If it's the
great.
8th, I'm going to be,
But I mean, as an alternate anyway.
as an alternate anyway, yes.
Okay.
They'll
I think-
thank you.
I think it only makes sense, since most of that is happening in historic Goodyear,
Yeah.
let's
That's very good.
make a connection there.
Okay.
Very good.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Anything else, Joanne?
One other one. You know, I'm a walking, talking YMCA billboard. Okay. However, I have been on that board of directors before we even broke ground on that Y. And even though this is not a council commitment, it's something that I would I'm still going to be with the Y, still with my Teen Action Council, everything else, but because we have that pool, we have a stake in the Y, if someone would like to take on that board,
When do they meet at?
they meet 7 o'clock in the morning, the third
Last Tuesday of the month.
Tuesday of the month.
So it's early?
Yes.
Yeah, I can do that for you.
Would you
Sherry,
like
thank
to?
you.
All
If
right.
if it's early, it
Okay.
happens to
I'll
me,
get
it's in the
with
middle
you
of the
about,
day.
now,
Yeah.
we'll talk about what some of the other things they, okay.
Good, Sherry, thank you. Anything else on there, Joanne?
No. that was-
Okay.
All right.
And Joe, we're up to you now.
We already did, we did
Oh, we did
Councilmember-
that, okay.
So now we have Councilmember Campbell.
Molly.
And currently, Councilmember has the Area Agency on Aging, Centennial, the City Centennial Committee, CDAC, neighborhoods of North Subdivisions, Mobile, the Community Funding Committee, and the Goodyear Citizens Committee on Water and Plume. I don't know if that's the official name, but I know that you're involved with that.
Molly, did you hear what he said?
Uh-huh. Okay,
Any changes?
no,
Okay.
Okay.
thank you.
Councilmember Loretano has the MAG Domestic Violence Committee, Valley Forward Board of Directors, Goodyear in Action Board of Directors, the P&Z Commissioner Selection Subcommittee, and her neighborhood is Estrella Vista, and now with the YMCA.
Okay, for me, the one, and Parrish and I talked about this, he's been kind of attending things for me. It hits on my assigned court day. On Wednesdays is when I'm assigned to be in court, so I just can't go because that's my pretrial day in Phoenix and Scottsdale. So
Okay.
there's no way I can ever make the meetings.
Well, is there anybody that we could,
Well, and this is one that it's not official. This was, the history on this was a couple years ago. Former Councilmember Antoniak had an interest,
right?
and then after a couple of months, he left. And then when Councilmember Loretano came in, she inherited a lot of the committees he was on, so she had taken it. So it's one that is not mandatory.
And I know Parrish has been covering some stuff for me there, so I don't know if you want staff to do it or
Valley Forward?
Valley Forward, yeah.
But it is demanding. It's
do they
three
do?
board. Well, they're a coalition of business government partners. We got started with it a few years ago as a member through the Water Resources Department. So it's a coalition similar to GPEC and economic development, but Valley Forward is more smart growth, environmental issues, things like this.
Really interesting. It's
But they do meet a lot. Okay.
Gary, would you do that for
Yeah.
us?
They
Great.
do
take
3
that on.
board meetings, every quarter they have a luncheon, and they have an annual dinner, and you're expected to
Right.
try to make at least 90% of that, so,
Okay.
okay.
Thank you, Gary.
But it's fabulous when I show up the first time. I'm gone.
I'll
Okay,
let
so
them know.
we put that in Gary's blank list here, is that what we
Yes.
do?
Yeah.
And so then the last one is the mayor.
Oh,
I should do this stuff.
well, a lot of these I had said maybe I'd pass them on, and I was told, no, you will not pass them on. So let's see what,
The League of Cities, we're trying to reinstate you on that. Then there's Luke Forward, the Luke West Valley Council, the MAG Regional Council, the MAG Transportation Policy Committee. Then you have the mayors meet, the Southwest Valley Mayors Breakfast and Managers Meetings. You're on the Board of Directors for GPEC, the International Leadership Council, which is by invitation only, and also the GPEC Ambassador Steering Committee, which is by invitation only. And then you're also, as mayor, you're the chair of the Goodyear Volunteer and Reserve Firefighter Retirement Trust.
I would definitely, if they allowed, let someone help me with that if I,
Wait,
No.
what were you bailing out on?
no, I'm not bailing out on it. I just want to make sure that I have someone, it's nice when I have someone to turn to when I'm doubled up on things and I can't get out.
I will do audit if you want to dump that on somebody else. I would be happy to do that.
I don't know.
And I can run the numbers just as well as, almost as well as former budget manager Pizzillo.
Audit is not on here.
She is, though.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah, it is on it.
My apologies, I didn't make the
Audit,
list.
yeah, audit's not on this list that we're talking about.
Yeah, it is. I'm sorry, it is.
So I would like to ask if there's ever an opportunity to represent you or go with you to anything for Luke.
Oh,
I
sure.
have a vested
interest
interest in
in-
Luke, and I
yeah.
would appreciate the opportunity
all
to
right.
do that, please.
So will we check out Luke to see
Yeah, anything
those
I can
events
do.
that I can do
If
that
you
with?
can't go, if I could go for you or whatever.
Go ahead.
Mayor, I got a quick question. On this Goodyear Volunteer and Reserve Firefighter Retirement Trust, if I recall, and my memory sometimes gets fuzzy, I thought Kavanaugh at one time had pushed, or not pushed that off, but I was covering one of these retirement trust chairs for a while.
I thought that was insurance, wasn't it?
No, I don't think so. Was this the one? Yeah, where he didn't want to do it, and he asked somebody to cover it, and I did. So I guess my question is, I don't know if it's mandatory for the mayor to be on this one, because Kavanaugh, there for a while I was doing it, so.
What I would like to do, and I would be happy to have someone take this for me because my schedule is unbelievable, but I would like to be able to, once in a while, show up, okay? I just don't want to give them the impression that, hey, this isn't important, I'm not going to be there. That's not it. So if that's the case, whoever it is, I'd like you to keep me briefed, definitely on what's going on, and then just remind me, if my schedules, I'll show up with you. So it's either Bill or you, it looks like. So.
Yeah, the only reason why I mention it is, they mentioned earlier that it was when you were gone, but I know there was one, and I think this is the one I'm looking at, Larry, that former mayor wanted me, or at least asked me to be on it. So I guess you have some options. That's all I'm saying, if you need some relief for some of the other stuff, that's all.
Well, I do. I think that's great to get a relief. I just don't want that impression to go out at all, that this is something I just want to hand over to someone because I'm not interested. So what are we going to do between the two of you?
It goes hand in hand with the pension thing?
Yeah, I would think it.
If it goes hand in hand, then maybe it would make sense to have the, yeah,
I mean, my first reaction was Bill, so,
that's fine,
okay, all
that's
right,
fine. I don't have a problem with that.
all right.
Do you even remember the last time they even met?
It's been quite a while.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So it's-
They don't meet very regularly, so. There you go. It's yours, Bill.
There you go. We need somebody to cover that.
Well, you've got one. Joe will cover it for you if you don't. Okay? All right?
Okay, then I just wanted to clarify, so the other member for the city's audit committee is going to be Councilmember Gelser? Was that
Yes,
the decision?
yes.
Okay.
You got it all?
And then you're
Yes.
not gonna,
Thank you very,
you're going to get off audit.
get off audit? Yeah. Do you think that's, there's no reason why.
That's no problem.
That's no problem. That's great. I've been on it, 3 years? Something like that, so I'm fine with that. Okay, second item here is consideration of the rainy day fund and proposals for drawdown. Mr. Fishback? And I guess, is Larry in on this too?
No.
No, okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Before I begin, and for the benefit of the public, I just want to draw attention to the 2 awards that the city has received again. The Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, the city received for the 3rd year in a row, and this is for the CAFR that the city produces each year. And also the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. This is the 15th time that the city has received that award. On tonight's regular business agenda, the City Council is scheduled to adopt the final budget. The work session today is to follow up to the recent budget work sessions. Specifically, it is to follow up to a request for discussion about the rainy day fund. As I mentioned, the final budget adoption and the public hearing on property tax levy is scheduled for later tonight on the regular business agenda. With the property tax adoption, which is the final step in the fiscal year 12 budget process, and that is scheduled for July 11th. And why won't this move?
There you go. Went too far.
This slide provides background for tonight's discussion. We have a summary of at the May 16th work session, we provided a summary of the fiscal year 12 revenues and expenditures. We discussed a summary of the fiscal year 12 operating funds. We had a fiscal year 12 capital budget presentation. We discussed employee compensation and benefits, and we discussed potential one-time uses. The council direction at that time was to, A, include the adjustment to the public safety compensation plan, which was the first year of a 3-year plan, and then secondly was to have the potential to address both of the additional years, 2 and 3, in fiscal year 13 based on the budget. Also, it was to include 2 additional holidays for all employees in lieu of merit increase. Also, the council removed the fire department annual inspection fee, and no action was taken on potential one-time uses. At the May 23rd council work session, we had a summary of the fiscal year 12 total budget, a summary of the fiscal year 12 operating funds. We discussed the employee compensation options, including up to a 2% merit increase based upon performance, including up to $1,200 compensation based on performance, and including discussion of up to additional 2 additional paid days off based on performance review. Council direction provided at that time was tabled the discussion on employee compensation to future meeting when all council members were present, and that's this evening. And 526 memo to the council we provided to the council regarding leave benefits for new non-exempt employees. City Council also met earlier this month at a strategic planning advance. During this meeting, the Council identified 4 key strategic priority areas. As a follow-up, staff is in the process of developing a work program which we will have prepared for you to review following the vacation. I wanted to present this information to you at this time, however, since it may or may not influence your decisions about spending of the rainy day fund. The 4 areas that were identified are fiscal and resource management, which is basically utilizing resources via technology to make the city of Goodyear efficient and effective in delivering better services or streamlining processes. It's focusing on collaboration and partnerships for service delivery. Secondly was the area of economic development, and it's growing the assessed valuation and the high-paying jobs in the city, reducing the commutes for the 75% of our residents that are commuting, and to increase business clusters in various industries. Third was a hub of services and amenities, a sense of place and a community, and a gathering place for residents. And fourth was to maintain a strong quality of life, to maintain satisfied residents, and strengthen the connection to Goodyear as a small town. Tonight's work session agenda is basically that the council wants to discuss the potential one-time uses of a portion of the rainy day fund. What we have discussed in the past, we have a current practice that totals 4 months of ongoing operating expenditures in the rainy day fund, or $16.3 million. There would be no impact to the bond rating, and we've talked with our bond counsel, should the council develop a plan to reduce the rainy day fund on a rational basis. And we had suggested $2 million would be something that you could begin discussing. This is a table that you've seen before. It's a summary of the rainy day funds in the valley, ranging from Avondale's, which has a 42% of the operating budget. We're the next highest with 32%, and the different levels that the other cities are at. It's been suggested that the city of Goodyear could be at a 20 to 25% level without causing much problem. And this would be consistent with what the bond counsel has advised us. This is a survey we updated of cities and what they're planning to do as far as compensation goes. Basically, it says that for MOUs, cities that have MOUs with their fire departments and or police departments, they are honoring those MOUs, and they are providing increases to those individual employees. The other employees very rarely, except in Buckeye's case, but they're merely going back to the 2009 levels. And I forget who else, but there's only one other city that is doing anything for non-represented employees. The potential one-time uses, as identified during the council discussions previously, are the fully funding street maintenance plan, which was a number of $900,000. Secondly was an economic development improvement, a corridor design. We were talking about Bullard Avenue. That would cost about $615,000, and that's just for the design. It's not for the construction of the improvement. Third was an enhanced right-of-way maintenance, which was phase 1. This is replacement of granite along existing rights-of-way, and we provided a list of where that would be in the phase 1. It was places like Van Buren, like Pebble Creek, and such locations. The total project was in the neighborhood of $4.3 million, and this phase 1 was $785,589. Next was Loma Linda Park construction. The fund project, fiscal year 13, based on the funding estimated at $2.5 million. We have incorporated into the budget this year the design of that park, and we have $200,000 incorporated into the budget for that design. And we have the consideration for the fiscal year 13 would be next year. Up to a 2% merit increase based on performance, which was $694,000. Up to a $1,200 compensation based on performance. That would cost us $502,000. And then last was up to an additional 2 additional paid days off based on performance, which is no additional cost, but it's very important that I stress I recognize that there is a cost to that, but there is no impact to the budget. So that's what no additional cost references. That's the presentation for this evening. The discussion is up to you all as far as A, the compensation, and B, the rainy day fund.
Who would like to start the discussion?
I'll start it. Can you go back to the slide on that one? Yeah, right there. It's my understanding the result of that public safety compensation plan, it's more for the audience, had nothing to do with the MOU, but had to do with the competitiveness of their ranges. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's the reason for the 3-year plan?
Yes.
So we weren't doing anything one over the other as a result of the compensation plan. That was the area that you came back with recommendations that said it was not competitive. Is that correct?
That is correct. We need to make those adjustments that we reviewed with the council to correct the pay plan and to increase our competitiveness.
The only reason why I mention that was to make sure everybody understands. It had nothing to do where one is getting some type of raise and nobody else is. It had to do with the compensation plan that was done by the city. Could you go to the next slide there?
After this? Or?
Yes.
Oops.
No, next one up. A couple things. I guess I'm a firm believer if we're going to grow the city and economic development, the feel and the look of the city is real important. You know, I guess I've been a stickler, and you know, from day one when I see the weeds and I see people not taking care of the right of way, the look to me and the feel of the city when you come in says, are we on the upswing or are we on the downswing? I think it's important on the right of way enhancements. The only thing is I'm not sure if I feel comfortable putting that kind of money in right now, but I feel strong. I guess what I'm wondering is can we use somewhat less to try to spruce up? Because even today, some of the things we have talked about before on Palm Valley and Cedria, there's a lot of individuals not taking care of the right-of-way and not taking care of the weeds, and they're allowing still the big tumbleweeds to grow, and in some areas probably a safety issue because you can't see around. I would still, and I know we're stretched as far as the what do you call code enforcement, but I feel strongly that we really got to get a handle on that, you know, from a neighborhood standpoint. I don't know if I'm sending mixed signals there, but I'd like to see some some additional money, trying to either from a code enforcement, trying to get some additional, if it's contract or whatever, because I don't want to add anything to our base, but a way of trying to, if we've got to go in and spray it and then bill them, then I don't have a problem with that. The other thing has to do with the performance. I feel very strongly, unfortunately, this will be the 4th year that there's no merit for the employees, and I think, I'm a firm believer when it comes to the rank and file. They're the ones out there on the front lines that are going to make or break as far as delivering service, and it's important that we make sure that we're aware of that. And as we go forward, unfortunately, this year we're just finally getting a balanced budget with no structural deficit, and I understand it's hard to push for that. But at the same token, I think it's important. Morale and productivity is interrelated, and I think it's important to find a way for those that are meeting their goals and objectives, which they all have when they go into their review every year. There's certain goals and objectives they have to meet, that if they meet it, to give them a day to say thank you. I don't have a problem with that from a cost standpoint. It's the most cost-effective way to do it, and it's a way of saying thank you, especially it would be 5 years come next year for a lot of them before we even talk about it again. And it's the most cost-effective way to say thank you, because I'm still a believer, a year and a half from now, maybe earlier, that as things start to open up, and you've seen some pressures from Phoenix, Peoria here, not this year, next year is looking at some raises, I think we're not going to be the employer of choice anymore. We're going to be the employer to pick off the best and the brightest. So I think I want to find a way to keep morale up. I want to keep them productive, and I think it's the most costly way to say thank you. That's why I like the last one on there. And again, it's all based on whether they meet or exceeds their standards. So for whatever it's worth, I think that's something we need to do.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Pizzillo. As far as the 785 for the enhanced right-of-way, we could come back to the council with a recommendation for, say, 200,000, if that's what the council's direction was. What would be the highest priorities? Would it be in code enforcement assistance? Would it be in taking Van Buren? Would it be in Pebble Creek or what? But we can do that if the council has a figure in mind.
I just think we're trying to attract businesses here, and as they come in and they look at our city, they're going to look at the neighborhoods, they're going to look at the field, they're going to look at how it works. If there's paints on the wall, if it looks like empty lots or unkept, they may part in it. Now I know schools pays a lot into it. They're looking for their kids. They're also looking for amenities when they locate, but I also feel they're looking for a feel. Neighborhoods that are well kept, our streets that are well kept, and that type of thing. And I think it just plays into the economic development team. Now, how much, I don't know. But and again, I don't know what it would take to try to put a little bit of to work on those that aren't taking care of some of those right-of-way issues and those weeds and that type of thing. But I remember last year, and I believe it's been addressed, but when we were on Bullard, when I left the 4th of July, I knew there was cars behind there, but I couldn't see them because the tumbleweeds were taller than the cars. And I'm thinking that's not the kind of image that if we're going to try to get somebody to locate out here that they should see. So with that, again, I don't have any numbers to throw at you, but I really think the feel and the look is important if we're going to recruit businesses. As far as the, what was the one there? On the Loma Linda Park. I'm a big supporter of Loma Linda Park, but I'm going to add this to it. I think we've got money in there right now for the design. Once the design comes back, we could always revisit it again to see if we can break that up in pieces that are reasonable to kind of move part of that project forward. I don't think that's something we need right now because we don't have the design through yet to say how can we split this design up to get some of that done. So I would like to hold off on that, even though I'm a big supporter of that. It's a part of the city that unfortunately we haven't put the effort in it, in my view, that we do in other parts of the city because it's the older part of the city, and we need to do something for those individuals, especially since they've stepped up and want this park. But at the same token, let's get the design to see how we can maybe split it up and get some of it done so we're doing something for them. And that's what I kind of see about that one. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments? Sherry?
Okay, first of all, I'm not sure if I'm on. With regard to the rainy day fund, I personally don't really want to touch it. I kind of want to keep it in the piggy bank right now. And there's a lot of corporations and there's a lot of money on the sidelines right now. And I'd like to have that and not spend it on something, although there's lots of worthy projects up there. I'd like to save that, for economic development to see what comes. So I don't know if you have to listen to the budget as a possible spend or however you listed it in the budget, but I'd like to see for economic development what comes, how we can best utilize that money. Because I think if we get economic development in here, that gets the money to get the park, to get the employees someday a raise. So that's kind of how I'm looking at the rainy day fund. Right now, I'm not confident where the economy is. Like I said, 50 building permits a month isn't good. Just listening the last couple days to the radio and reading the newspaper and on the internet and looking at the economic factors, it's not getting better. It's skirting across the bottom right now. But I know there's a lot of corporations out there that are just sitting on piles of cash. And I would like to have that, our little pile of cash too. First of all, if things go worse, so we have it if something happens. Or second of all, if we have someone with economic development, we can use that in some way for some sort of economic development plan. The park, I love the idea of phasing it in. Let's see what we have and phase it in, because I agree with you 100%. That's one area of Goodyear that really has been sorely neglected, and we really need to, especially when people from the community step up, we need to step up with them. We just don't have the funding to put all 2.5. I don't feel comfortable. With the salary increases, I don't think, I want this to be said, I think we have great employees. I think we have wonderful employees. But when I look at the 500 employees we have and the 65,000 citizens that have the same pressures and aren't getting raises and aren't getting the salary increases right now, and if we lose people, and this isn't flippant, because I met with John this morning, he goes, oh, you don't want to say that. If someone finds, and this is actually heartfelt, if someone finds a better situation for them, then God bless them, and you have to do what's right for your family, your career. It's not always good to stay at the same place, your family, and what's best for you. And I understand that, because I don't think right now we're in the position. I have said on the record before, I'm for the 2 days off. I think there is an additional cost. I know there's no budgetary number to put in there, but there is a lost productivity for those 2 days off. And I just can't support the merit play and the compensation. And I will say, when raises come back, I think we need to look to phase them in, not this year, but when they come back to the lower level. This is my position. Someone may not agree, that's fine. But I think you got to put it to the lower level people rather than give it across the board so the executives get 2% and then the lower level people get 2%. I think we have to look in a way to, when they do come back, to tier it in slowly and look at some of our benefits and how we structure our benefits and our compensation, and not just compare to other cities. We need to look at things like different pay and how can we work smarter along those lines. So I just am not for that right now, and it's not a ding on anybody. It's just I don't feel comfortable where the economy is right now, and I just don't think I can tell the citizens, especially when John told us it 2 meetings ago, if it wasn't for that emergency sales tax, we would be in a structural deficit. So looking at that, when we're out of this emergency and we can take that off, then I think I'd be more comfortable. That's just where I am.
Joanne?
Sure. Well, to start off with, to begin, we were looking at our budget and the past sales tax increase and the structure that we've had, and we've known that we wanted to take care of things in increments, in bites. And we had a positive bite by taking the food tax, and being able to take a little bite out of that. And so that was a positive thing. We're also taking a little bite. No, it's really not a bite because we never put it in place. But the fact that we said, no, we're not going to do to our businesses with the fire inspection fee. But when it came to our employees, the little bite that I see that we've taken is by saying thank you and giving them the 2 days, Christmas and New Year's. That is a thank you. Those, I know they're unproductive days, but you know what? They're having them off, and that is a thank you. Quite frankly, even though it seems like a given to people, when you're talking about a health insurance premium increase of over $700,000, and we're covering it, that's a thank you. I mean, that's a bite because they are important, and that's an important step. And I guess, in a sense, we're also saying thank you to our public safety people that they are important, that we want them to stay competitive, that they should stay with this city, and we recognize that. So that's another bite, that's another thank you. That's as far as I can go for this year. I expressed, a few meetings back regarding Loma Linda Park. I am with others here that, we can do that design. Let's see. I do believe that this year, after the design takes place, that we could still spend $1 million. I don't think it has to be the 2.5, but I bet we could easily get in ground some work done and spend $1 million. I can wait for that to come back to us, but I'm still strongly in support of doing something with that this year. You know what? A year ago or so, I was the one that brought up about the right-of-way issues, and the issue is that when things die, when things get bad, we have no policy in place of saying fix it, and that's where this came from. And yeah, it's $4 million altogether, but you got to start somewhere. Now, you know what? It is important, but amongst other things, it is a lower priority, and I'm easy with that. So really, to me, the biggest issue right now, and nobody really mentioned the street maintenance plan. I don't know how we all. I think I need to hear from you guys a little more about that. I don't mind sitting on money. There's no problem with that. But when it comes to, if we're sitting on the money because we're waiting for the next greatest perk to bring in an employer to our town, I think we really need to be thinking about that, because this is our citizens' money. And sometimes the citizens need to be able to have tangible, feel it, that's my money, that's my park, that's my road, that's whatever, that we have to really consider that. So right now, I'm still in support of Loma Linda Park, and the other things, you know what, I can hold off on. I can wait. There's nothing wrong. I'm one of those that I'll wait for and save my money for the right thing. So.
And just for the street maintenance, I don't have a problem. I think we have some in the budget, and I think we need to keep an eye on that and make sure they don't, because the last thing I think we all want is for all of a sudden they to go down, and then all of a sudden they're really bad.
Yeah.
And it costs.
Comment, John?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, Councilmember Loretano, we have $1.6 million in the budget for that, and as you recall, the goal is to get to $2.5 million per year. That's why $900,000. But we do have $1.6 million, which is double what we have this year.
Sure. Next.
Okay.
Wally?
Thank you. Well, I concur with everything that's been said, and there's no sense beating it to death. I really am excited about the park. I want to see the plans, and then we can figure out what we can fund and what we can't fund, because you can always build a park in increments, and it works well. And we want the citizens to know that we're very supportive of them. It's going to stay on our radar, and we're going to watch this all year. And when the appropriate time comes, I'm sure we'll come up with something that they'll be happy with. I agree with the 2 days, additional days off. Although we're giving them now 4 days off, so that's really thank you. There's 2 in the budget now. You did not agree to that.
No,
Sorry. There's 2 days that we're giving them now that's already in the budget, and we're looking at doing 2 additional days, which I think is a wonderful thank you, plus the additional cost for their health care. We are doing that, and I would prefer, truthfully, not to spend our rainy day fund, because I agree with Sherry and I agree with Joanne. We don't know, we're not bottomed out yet, and we don't know what's coming around the corner. And frankly, I like to have a positive checkbook. And I'm just really hesitant to go in there and touch the money right now. If we need it, we want to know it's there.
Bill?
Thank you.
I agree, I'll agree with everybody as well. On particularly the park, I like the idea, the concept of moving in increments in the park and getting that done. I think that is really important. And again, I'll look back historically, that section of Goodyear has applied for the grants. They're doing a lot of work down there. This is just one more thing to help beautify that historic Goodyear area. So I'm very much in agreement with that. One of the we're only talking about the things that are on this list, and obviously being new to the conversation. We've never really talked about what came up in the Citizens Budget Committee, which, many of you know I served on a couple of years ago, and some of the discussion that we had during that committee was using one-time revenues, which certainly the rainy day fund would be one-time revenues, and if we're overfunded, as we think we are, that maybe we should be using some of that revenue to pay down some of the debt. Use it in a positive way. If we can use it for ballpark payments, if you will. Some of the bond money is being paid for out of the general fund, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. That if we offset that, that's additional money now in the general fund that we can use to move from year to year. I know the council in May approved a lease for this building and the buildings across the way for 3 additional years.
I believe it was 5.
Was it 5?
Yeah.
That, for the amount of money that we've spent up to date and the amount of money we're going to spend in the future, we could certainly own both buildings at the Goodyear Financial Center and have an entire city complex right there. That perhaps we can use these monies to make those lease payments, and again, free up money out of the general fund. Rather than doing something new, let's pay for what we're trying to accomplish now in a different way to use those general fund revenues differently. And that's not on the table, and I know it hasn't been discussed, so I'm kind of throw the new guy card out.
Well, okay, question. So I agree. Your very first point of can we use any of this money to pay off debt? And I was thinking, I thought that, well, is there any looming, but it can only, it's like, is there $1 million loan or a $2 million loan out there? And I don't think there is. I think we refinanced the PIC bonds because that was a small one.
Right.
So it was kind of like, yes, it is taking down debt. But at the same time, did it make a difference? Now, the other question I would have is if you're using it, it could be used, sure, as debt payment. But if you're using it as lease payment, to me, that's operations. That defeats the point of it being,
Yeah, especially for 5 years. So, but my original kind of genesis behind this was the ballpark. And I searched for as much time as I could this afternoon for the slide. But I recall a presentation that was made that showed the payments for the ballpark for over the next 5 or 10 years. At what point the tourism authority kicks in, and which is, we think 2017, but maybe not. That if we can start
2021.
Yeah, if it's really not going to be until 2021, that's 4 years. And if we're talking about $4 million of contingency money, and we take $1 million a year and use it toward it, it frees up that general fund money, which carries over from year to year to year, which by the time we get then to 17, we'll be able to afford the Arizona Tourism Authority not making their payment for those 4 years. That will kick us to 21, and kind of use it as a, and again, I'm not not a CPA, but if I could move that debt farther down the road, anticipating that I'm going to have a hole later to plug, is that a sound strategy? And I'd have to look to.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, council members, Stiff. Right now, the general fund debt for the ballpark is $5.3 million per year, plus $900,000 for general obligation bonds. And that ramps up to, as I recall that slide you're talking about, $10 to $12 million per year. But that's all factual what you've said. Just as I just want to make clear what the manager's recommendation to you is this evening. It's the same as it was at the beginning. That is, not to spend any of the rainy day fund, to leave it in the bank just in case, whether it's for whatever Councilmember Loretano talked about or somebody else. The fact is that it is there, and that would be good. And the economy is uncertain enough right now that that would be good. The other recommendation is that we do as Councilmember Campbell said, I recommended that we do the 4 days. I have not recommended any other compensation changes other than the police and the fire to the council. So do the 4 days, and that would just take a simple motion by the city council. Those are the recommendations.
Thank you. Gary, let's hear from Gary. I want you to chime in here first, Gary, and then...
I can put some numbers on things where I could live with.
Thank you.
I have always supported the 2 additional days, and I will continue to support those until we, either pass it or it fails one way or the other. As far as when Councilmember Pizzillo talked about the enhanced right-of-way maintenance, I could live with $500,000 worth of rock and granite in strategic locations so that the city looks better. And I could also live with $100,000 worth of code enforcement or additional funds towards code enforcement, because I think that will make the city look better over the near term, and I'm sure that the city manager might have some priorities. If other people in the council can't support that, that's fine with me. I have no problem saving the money for an economic development opportunity. But I would keep the majority of the money in-house where we have it as a prudent fund, so that if the economy does go south, we're covered. But if the economy heads in the direction that we all hope it will, then we can actually move on some opportunities. Loma Linda Park, it's going to take 9 months before the design comes back anyway, and we're going to be working on next year's budget.
That's exactly right.
And if we're in March and they have a design, everybody signs off on it, and we still have $2 million of rainy day fund money, maybe we'll say, let's send out an RFP and see what we get, and we'll still spend the money the following year. We won't be spending the money now. So that's pretty much where I stand on this thing.
Well, I'm going to weigh in here, and then I'll pass it to you. They said the mayor should speak last, and you all had some very thoughtful information and opinions on this. I'm economic development driven. To me, to use one-time money, that's one-time money, to pay off a few months or whatever, is not a good investment for our public. I'm hoping that we're in the running right now for a company, and if we happen to get it, it's high-paying jobs. Healthcare, it's really good. I'd rather have money to ensure that we acquire that company. So I'm not ready to just whip that money out of the one time and spend it anyway, but not on payments, not on something that's not going to give us any return. The return will give us the debt's going to be paid off. But you don't have a crystal ball, and I don't. And we have a number of years here to observe this and still think about I'm not saying to shrug off. I don't like the debt either. People wanted the stadium. We use the stadium. It's a great asset. There isn't a city around that has something like we have to be able to have a huge 4th of July party like we're having. So, yeah, it's going to be a struggle, but I think in the end it's going to be worth it. Loma Linda, I want to get through the design, and I love in increments. We've always had to do a lot of our projects are in increments. Look at the Police and Safety Administration building, Fire and Safety. Well, hey, it's been a slow increment, but we're doing it. So I think I'm satisfied with where we are in that. I'm up to giving 2 additional paid days. You weren't on the council when we lost 13 employees, I think, in a month. They went to private industry. That's when the market was really hot and people were getting great paychecks. Out of those 13, I think that I only know of 1 employee that came back in community development. So I know the pressure's out there, and I know the pressure of the people saying, it's not fair, I've lost my job, it's not fair to do this, not fair to do that. But I think about our employees. I challenge some of these people because I'm in that office almost every day, and I'm seeing people that are not just doing their jobs, they're doing 2 or 3 other jobs. They are working hard, and I've also seen them cut costs in their departments. And I know we get emails all the time, people saying they're not, people doubting them, people doubting city government, and city government is a target right now, nationwide. But I still think that it's worth it on the days off if we can retain some of these employees that are trained. And if you're in the city hall and then you all of a sudden are going to get a new person that's going to be assisting you, like I am, we're getting someone that's replaced that's worked at the city hall. They have experience. They know the knowledge. They know government. It's a big relief to me to have someone be able to be put in that position. So, you have to think about the unintended consequences of some of our decisions. And I know you're going to get bruised and battered by the public and some of them, but the majority of the people are not complaining. It's a small group. Not that they aren't worthwhile listening to some of their suggestions, I definitely think. And some of these things we're looking at is from the Budget Committee. Right on here, that's what they wanted. They talked about the contingency fund to use it. So that was a citizens committee, so we have to keep that in mind. So, over
Madam
to-
Mayor, I'm
yes.
sorry. I apologize. We have a public hearing scheduled at 5:30 with the CFDs.
Okay, so out of this, are we where we need to be on this?
I believe what I've heard is that the budget is okay as it is proposed, and that the rainy day fund will stay intact for the moment, and that I haven't heard for sure, I think it's a 3-3 tie right now, Bill. I haven't heard for sure about the 2 extra days, so I've heard that basically, I believe it's a
You
4.
want me to poll that right now?
You can
No.
poll it and get a sense of the council.
Is that what you're asking?
Can you?
Can we do that or no?
You just need to talk.
Okay.
Don't do it. Don't. Thank you.
I think actually I did hear consensus because Councilmember Campbell did say that she was in favor of it. So there is definitely a majority of the council that wants the 4 days.
Okay.
We'll bring that back in later action.
Yeah.
And are we carrying that meeting on here, or are we going up to the dais? Okay. All right, with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.